Every day, most households throw away one of the most important resources they have, and some of them don't even realize it. Kitchen scraps, garden trimmings, and even dry leaves are all being tossed away when they can be turned into something valuable for your garden: compost. The problem is that composting often gets overcomplicated. People think they need large bins, a lot of space, or the right formula to get going. But the truth is, backyard composting can be surprisingly simple. At its simplest, composting is just natural decomposition, because in nature, nothing goes to waste. Leaves from tall trees, plants die back, animal waste breaks down, and over time, everything returns to the soil. Composting simply just speeds up that process. What looks like a pile of scraps is actually a living ecosystem filled with bacteria, fungi, insects, worms, and countless microorganisms working together to break organic material into a nutrient-rich soil amendment. When finished, compost should no longer look like the materials that went into it. Instead, it becomes dark, crumbly, earthy-smelling material that can be mixed into garden beds, containers, raised beds, or around established plants. Composting is often called black gold because it transforms everyday organic waste into one of the richest soil amendments you can add to your garden. Finished compost can help soil structure, feed your plants, and grow healthier herbs, vegetables, and flowers. One of the reasons why people think composting is complicated is because they hear terms like carbon to nitrogen ratios. While those concepts are useful, beginners can simplify everything into two categories: browns and greens. Greens are materials that have and contain more nitrogen. These include things like vegetable scraps, fruit peels, coffee grounds, fresh grass clippings, and animal manure from herbivores. Browns are materials that contain more carbon. These include dried leaves, straw, shredded paper, cardboard, wood chips, and dead plant material. Now that you understand the difference between browns and greens, let's put it into a simple system that you can follow in your garden. First, choose your composting spot. Find an outdoor area that is easy to access throughout the year. The goal is convenience, because the easier it is to reach, the more consistent you'll be. You can build a simple bin using wood pallets, wire fencing, or any structure that allows airflow. A good working size is roughly 3 feet wide, 3 feet long, and about 5 feet high, which gives enough mass for proper decomposition. Once your space is ready, you can start building your pile. The easiest way to think about it is layering. Start with a base layer of browns directly on the ground. This helps with airflow and drainage, and then add a layer of greens on top. Every time you add fresh kitchen scraps or green materials, always cover them with a layer of browns. This covering system is important because it prevents odors, discourages pets, and keeps the pile balanced as it breaks down. From here, it becomes more of a habit than a process. Every time you have kitchen scraps, take them out and add them to your pile. Every time you clean up garden waste, add it in. Then simply cover it again with browns. And over time, the pile will build itself. There are only a few key conditions to keep in mind. Your compost should feel like a damp sponge, moist but never soggy. If it becomes too dry, decomposition slows down. If it becomes too wet, it can turn dense and start to smell. You can turn the pile occasionally to speed things up by adding oxygen, but it's not strictly necessary if you're layering properly and maintaining balance. And it's just as important to not add the materials that don't belong. Things like meat, dairy, oily foods, and waste from carnivorous animals should be kept out of the compost pile, as they can create odor problems and attract pests. At its core, composting is a cycle. Collect, layer, and let nature do the work. For many gardeners, kitchen scraps are the foundation to a good compost pile. Vegetable peelings, fruit scraps, coffee grounds, eggshells, and many other organic materials can all become future garden soil. Every banana peel, carrot top, onion skin, or coffee filter represents nutrients that can be returned to the garden rather than sent to the landfill. One helpful tip is to chop larger scraps into pieces before adding them. Smaller pieces have more surface area, which allows microbes to break them down faster. You'll often hear people asking whether eggshells belong in the compost bin, and the short answer is yes. While they decompose more slowly than fruit and vegetable scraps, they eventually break down and contribute calcium to the finished compost. And if you're enjoying these practical gardening guides, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, where we're producing videos every week with these in-depth tutorials to help you master gardening. And if you keep chickens like I do, you have one of the most valuable resources you could ask for. Chicken manure is extremely rich in nitrogen, which makes it an excellent green material for the garden. Many chicken keepers also collect bedding materials such as straw, wood shavings, or coop litter at the same time. This creates a natural balance of mixed greens and browns that compost beautifully. However, chicken manure is too strong to apply directly to plants. Composting allows those nutrients to stabilize while reducing the risk of burning plant roots. Once fully composted, chicken manure becomes an incredibly valuable amendment that helps support healthy plant growth throughout the garden. Horse manure is another fantastic addition to the garden, if you have access to it. In fact, many gardeners actively seek it out because it breaks down into rich organic matter and helps build healthy soil. Unlike chicken manure, horse manure typically contains more carbon because it's often mixed with bedding materials such as straw or shavings. This combination creates excellent composting conditions. If you're using horse manure, it's best to allow it to compost thoroughly before applying it to garden beds. This gives microorganisms time to break down the material, which helps create a more stable, finished product. Your garden itself produces a surprising amount of green waste material. Spent annuals, faded perennials, trimmed branches, weeds that haven't gone to seed, old vegetable plants, leaves, and grass clippings can all become future compost. Many gardeners think garden cleanup is just hauling everything away. But in full reality, all of those materials are extremely valuable. Every leaf and every plant stem contains nutrients that come from the soil. Composting returns these nutrients back into the garden cycle. One of the easiest ways to speed up decomposition is to chop and shred larger materials before adding them to the pile. Smaller pieces break down much faster than large branches or whole plants. And if you're looking to improve your soil this season, be sure to check out our store at Wildwood Outdoor Living or browse online. We have everything you need to get your soil healthier every year. There's also an optional way to speed up the decomposition process, and that's adding worms. This isn't required to make compost, but it will definitely help break things down quite a bit faster. In many cases, worms will naturally find their way to your compost bin, but you can also actively add them to create a more efficient compost system. The most commonly used are composting worms, often red wigglers, which are specifically adapted to feed on organic waste near the surface of decomposing material. To use them, you simply add them to a well-balanced compost pile that already contains a mix of greens and browns, and make sure the pile stays moist but not waterlogged. Worms need a damp environment to survive and stay active. Once introduced, they help by consuming organic material, breaking it into finer particles, and mixing nutrients through that pile. You'll often notice that areas with worms break down faster and have a nicer, richer, more uniform texture. If you ever see earthworms occurring naturally in your compost pile, that is a great sign. It means your pile has the right conditions for a good functioning compost pile. And if you want to promote even more healthy environment, you can add the product called Rotted, which is a beneficial bacteria blend which helps encourage the earthworms to come and visit and help break down your pile a little bit faster. Finished compost looks very different from the materials that started the whole process. Instead of recognizing leaves, vegetable scraps, or manure, you'll see a dark, crumbly material that resembles rich soil. If you can still identify some of the parts that you've added, then that means your pile needs more time. The longer compost matures, the more stable and beneficial it becomes. Once your compost is ready, the possibilities are almost endless. You can spread it over vegetable beds before planting, mix it into raised beds, top-dress flower gardens, improve container soil, or apply it around trees and shrubs. Think of compost as feeding the soil rather than feeding the plant. Healthy soil supports healthier roots support healthier plants, and healthier plants lead to better harvests and better blooms. And that's why learning how to compost is one of the most beneficial skill that a gardener can learn. And let us know in the comments below, have you tried starting to compost? And if not, what's stopping you?